In the first episode, Bran, not Brand.
I thought it was Ned.
They call him Brandon, isn't Brandon? Bran. No.
Oh, Brandon. His name is Brandon, so Brand is acceptable.
Yeah. No, I think Bran's
they said that very well.
Like I said earlier, he's the conduit. He's the one we're seeing the show through. I think the first pilot, they set it up to be Ned, I think.
Everything seems to be done in his favor. Not his favor, but things seem to be done for him. Like, you know, the plot seems to move around him in this first episode. With the
Bran or Ned?
Brandon, however you say it. But yeah, I think it seems as if they put a lot of focus on him, but in reality, it's not quite the case for the entire series, which I think is one of the good things they do. They kind of lead you into thinking certain things, and they subvert those beliefs really, really quickly.
Right.
That way, you're never like complacent
Yeah.
with any particular moment of the story.
Again, I think Bran's just the protagonist for the episode.
Yeah.
I don't know if he remains that way.
I thought it was Ned for the protagonist. Absolutely, the patriarch of the family. He has the difficult decisions, including
He's on the poster.
executing the guy
Yeah,
and deciding whether to
through?
take the job. I thought it was him. Little did we know.
Right.
Then, actually, now that I rewatch it, though, they really did set Jon Snow up to be the protagonist. But
I'm not gonna lie to you, he looked kind of like a bitch to me. Like
Jon Snow?
in the first episode, yeah, dog. Yeah.
It's just that look. I look at my mom hates me.
Yeah. Like the look of him just looked like, yo, he's gonna get. I thought he was gonna get cut down in the first few episodes.
I
Like,
knew
yo,
he
this
was.
dude's gonna get stabbed.
he was like the
stabbed.
dog with the tail between his legs. This whole episode.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
he becomes something much better.
I don't know. I think Bran, because even Ned, he's like, please, Father, can we keep the direwolves? And Ned's like, he says the things, you have to wash it, train it, and if it dies, you bury it yourself. Right?
Yeah.
Like the whole episode is teaching Bran to grow up.
That's why I thought it was gonna be like him growing up.
He's not going to be a boy
the entire
forever.
series.
And then he's the first Stark child we see. He's the last character we see.
That's true.
And he's definitely the most active. We see
Not for long.
we see we see the king coming into town from his eyes. He's the one who tells everyone, "Hey, they're here." So we're the one we're following Bran this whole episode.
But that real big scene where Ned is standing there with Kat and Maester Lewin behind him, and he's deciding whether to take the job. That was the big fork in the road, and that I thought that I was watching Ned as the protagonist there, because he's going to be the one to decide to go down south and be the king. But you're right, Bran was huge part of this episode, more so than any other episode until. Forever, actually.
Forever, yeah. Should Ned have taken the job as Hand of the King? There wouldn't have been a show.
Well, he's proven that he's a man of duty by executing the deserter of the Night's Watch. So even if he didn't want it, he would have to take it.
He had to take it. Yeah, there was no way he could not take the job, because he's all about honor, and he did it. Yeah. Now the question is whether he should have.
Heck yeah,
power.
No,
come on.
Definitely. Second most powerful person in the world.
He doesn't care about all
Sign
that.
me up.
Y'all can live good for the rest of your lives. Come on. Now.
He's living all right. He's doing well.
Warm in King's Landing. It's freezing in Winterfell. I'd be on there in a second. Let's go. Kids, pack up your crap. We're gonna go live in the palace.
No, it's just Sansa him. Just Sansa and him leave. That's it. Just Sansa. Dang it.
I don't know. He could have easily been like, I'm retired. We won the war. I'm gonna hang with my wife until I'm dead here.
But he
raise my
had
kids.
to. You're right. He
But
had to.
They set him up as being a man of honor, that he
had to do
he
it.
wouldn't
That's
have
his
done,
character.
even if he didn't want to, and his wife didn't want him to. He would have.
I don't think he did want to.
The king is his best friend, and he still kneels when he walks in, and he kneels when he's offered the job. Ned is a penitent. Is that the right word?
Penitent's a good word.
Man, and he's taking that job.
Really, you're watching the king and you're watching Ned, and it's like, why is Ned not the king, and why is this king why is he Robert the king?
I did always ask that question.
Well, Ned never wanted it, just like Jon. Jon never doesn't want it. Ned never wanted it.
Well, Robert also killed the current king.
Yeah, that's true.
And then Cersei mentions later to him in the show, you could have just climbed up the steps and taken the throne yourself. But Ned's not a power-hungry guy.
No, he's not. He's not. I don't think he wanted to. He had to, but morally, I wish he didn't.
That was one of those things where, a gruesome act, of course, but I think that it showed his ability to show. It shows his priorities, what he prioritizes, his land, his people, and he's not going to let somebody, even if that person may be telling the truth, he's not going to let somebody stand in the way of that.
It's even the law,
yeah, he's definitely a man of honor, which I guess I can understand that as to why he would cut the guy's head off, but it still shows that he's an imperfect character.
It also accomplishes so much story-wise because we learn all about the Night's Watch without ever having to see them up there. We know that the rules are being a deserter is execution. We know that the White Walkers exist, and now somebody south of the wall has been told about them. And we know that Ned will kill someone and carry out his duty, even though he's a good father and a good person. So it's a scene that accomplishes a lot for the story. It's really important.
I like the boy who gets his head chopped off. He just he says, "I'm sorry," and you can tell at that moment he's like, "I'm okay dying." Like, I totally felt from the actor, I'm okay dying after what I just saw.
Yeah.
I don't want to live through this.
Yeah, it was creepy.
He got off easy.
Yeah, he did. Well, who's the antagonist? If we're following Bran, for my example, if we're following Bran through this episode, who is the one that we're rooting against, or who's going directly against Bran? And maybe Bran isn't the protagonist. Maybe he's just the eyes through which we see it, and Ned is the protagonist. Maybe you're right there. There's a few. I mean,
Jamie. I think that the main antagonist that they set up definitely has to be the White Walkers, because while there is conflict between the families and whatnot, the White Walkers seem to reign supreme over the entire tone.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And I think it's because of that you're kind of like, yo, is this gonna happen next episode? A couple of episodes down, that way you're already thinking about them. But again, with the whole tension thing, they don't bring it back up for a couple more episodes. Right. When they do it, it's so small, and so for that reason, I could say that they're the antagonist, because you know what's coming. You know what's coming, and the fact that they said winter is coming in the name of the episode, and they say it in the episode, just lets you know that more.
Well, if we think about the antagonist being just in direct opposition of the protagonist's wants and goals, you could really think that the king's the antagonist as well, because Ned does. I really don't think Ned wants to go down. I really don't think he does. I think he wants to remain in King's Landing up north with his family, and then the king is asking him to do something. I wouldn't ask you if I didn't have to, and he's in direct opposition with what Ned, I think, really wants internally. So maybe the king's also an antagonist.
I think they set Jamie up. The first thing we know from Jamie is that he never worries about anything. He's just like, talking to his sister in the shadows in the corner, and they obviously have a secret. Right. Then, everything about him, he looks just like Prince Charming in Shrek. Yeah, who's definitely, and they share a lot of qualities too, but he's right in Ned's face all the time, for no reason. Yeah. And I think that they set him up. And then obviously with the last shot, throwing the little boy off of the castle, I think they set Jamie up to be the antagonist.
One thing that I noticed that they did, and this is particularly why I go towards the White Walkers as opposed to anything else, is because there's a clear dichotomy between the White Walkers and every other human. Of course, all the people have their own conflicts, but you see sprinkles of bad people and good people in each faction, essentially. Right. Whereas the White Walkers are holistically a negative force. Just their appearance has its own style to it. And so for that, I can just tell just from a visual standpoint that this is clearly not somebody who's working to the character's favor by any means.
Right, if you think about the episode itself, and obviously overall you can say, Jamie's the clear antagonist or being set up overall, but if you think just the episode, you look at Arya and Sansa, and Arya is the antagonist to Sansa, and Sansa is the antagonist to Arya. I mean, she freaking throws food at her face, right? And they are totally opposite, right? And they bicker, and so even Jon Snow and Catelyn, each other's antagonists, and so. If we're looking at episodes, there's a lot of individual antagonists to each protagonist, but overall, right now, you may be right about Jamie being set up that way. Yeah.
And think about how that changes.
Yeah.
That's the true genius
right.
of the show. There are a lot of things to love about the show, but the long-term character arcs or something.
So
I've never felt
amazing.
The way that I feel about Jaime after watching this episode, and the way you feel about him now,
and then later,
I mean,
it's like I hate you and I love you and I hate myself that I love you.
Yeah, that blew me away.
I think that's one of the interesting things about it, is because, in all honesty, there's no reason to like any of these characters. They all do despicable things at some point, but you still do, And I think, again, that's the magic of storytelling, because especially nowadays with all this that we got, we can still feel compassion for people that do things that are completely horrific. That's I love the way that they're able to do that, have that effect on people across the entire world, that we all like somebody or a couple people who are also terrible at the same time. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Everyone's the protagonist in their own story. And,
One character that never does anything despicable is Hodor.
But
we never meet him in this episode.
We see him one time.
He's in it?
He's in the line. He's in the line when the king meets Hodor. Yeah, he doesn't do anything
Talk
bad.
about another heartbreaking one.
What a lovely guy. What a lovely guy.
Hodor.
Yeah.
We miss you.